On September 23rd, 2025, at 7:16 a.m., Zine Nucky Sylvester, a 23-year-old mother of three, shared a post on Facebook. In it, she wrote about her favorite colors, pink and black, and expressed a wish for her sons to wear pink, saying real men will be defined by it. She stated she did not know where she was, but made it clear that she was tired. Sylvester thanked those who loved her, reflected that she had reached the age of 23 with 3 children, and ended the post with a line that drew immediate attention. If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. Hours later, her death was confirmed. The post spread rapidly, drawing thousands of reactions and shares, while family, friends, and the wider community tried to piece together the weight behind her final message. What followed were tributes, vigils, and unresolved questions about the struggles she faced. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Zine Nucky Sylvester was a 23-year-old resident of Ohio at the time of her death. She was a mother of 3 young sons. The ages of her children were 6 years, 1 year, and 3 months. At the time of her passing, she was described as a young mother whose life revolved around her children and her social presence. Her role as a parent to 3 children of very young ages placed her in a position of continuous responsibility and dependency, requiring attention both day and night. Details about Sylvester's childhood and upbringing remain limited in public records. It is not currently known whether she was raised in a 2-parent household or a single-parent environment, nor whether she experienced instability during her formative years. These areas require further investigation to clarify the influences that shaped her early development. Her education background has also not been publicly detailed. Whether she completed high school or pursued higher education is not documented. These unknowns form gaps in a complete picture of her path from adolescence to young adulthood. Information on early ambitions, talents, or hobbies is equally scarce. Family and friends have remembered her as a loving mother and a person with an active social media presence, but whether she had long-term professional or creative goals is not yet established. This lack of documentation leaves unanswered questions about her aspirations and the opportunities she may have sought. Sylvester maintained a significant online presence, most notably through her Facebook account, which had nearly 8,000 followers. Her content was often centered on her children, documenting their lives, sharing photographs, and occasionally posting updates about her own thoughts and experiences. Through these posts, she created an image of a young mother managing the demands of raising 3 children while still maintaining a presence on social media. Her followers saw her as involved in her family life, often presenting herself as dedicated to her children's needs and growth. The contrast between her public image and her hidden personal struggles is a key factor in understanding her case. On the surface, she appeared to be balancing family and social life, yet behind these posts, there were signs of distress. The carefully curated outward persona stood in opposition to the internal struggles that were not visible to her audience until her final days. Sylvester's financial circumstances reflected the difficulties of being a young mother with 3 dependents. Following her death, her family established a GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral and memorial expenses, which indicated limited resources to manage unexpected costs. The campaign drew attention to the lack of financial stability she and her family faced. Her daily life likely included reliance on community or family support systems for childcare, finances, or other necessities. Public information has not confirmed whether she had employment or a steady source of income. The combination of 3 dependents, financial pressure, and the absence of documented employment highlights the heavy responsibility she carried with limited means. The visible aspect of Sylvester's life pointed to several struggles. Managing 3 children, one of whom was a newborn, required constant physical and emotional attention. Sleep deprivation, household tasks, and the continuous care demands of children at different developmental stages presented daily challenges. On social media, She showed signs of fatigue and stress. Posts revealed that she was often tired and overwhelmed. Some of her messages included subtle references to exhaustion or discouragement, though not always recognized as signs of deeper issues. These indicators, while present, may not have been interpreted by her followers as warning signs of severity of her internal state. Beyond the visible challenges, there were likely hidden struggles that shaped her final days. Postpartum depression is a possible factor, given the recent birth of her third child just 3 months before her death. The physical toll of childbirth, combined with sleepless nights and constant demands, can heighten risks of depression and anxiety in young mothers. A lack of sleep over prolonged periods can impair decision-making and emotional regulation. Combined with the responsibilities of 3 children, it is plausible that sleep deprivation contributed to her deteriorating condition. Emotional isolation was another potential factor. While her social media presence created the appearance of connection, it does not necessarily reflect close support in her daily life. The reduction of personal time, combined with the role of full-time caregiver, may have left her with few outlets for stress relief. The role of a partner or co-parent remains unclear. Public reports have not specified whether Sylvester was in a relationship or receiving support from the fathers of her children. The absence of this information leaves questions about whether she faced her responsibilities largely alone. If her relationship dynamics involved conflict, neglect, or lack of assistance, this would have further deepened her struggles. Publicly available records do not provide information on any diagnosed mental health conditions in Sylvester's history. There is no evidence of prior treatment, medication, or counseling. Family and friends have not reported that she was known to be under psychiatric care at the time of her death. This absence of documented history suggests either that she had no previous diagnoses, or, more likely, that her condition went unrecognized or untreated. Untreated depression, anxiety, or postpartum disorders remain a possibility in understanding her situation. Family and friends may not have been fully aware of the severity of her distress. While her exhaustion and discouragement were visible to some extent, the depth of her despair may not have been apparent until her final social media post. The case raises a central question. Were there warning signs that were missed? Her social media posts may have contained indications of her declining mental state, but without clear recognition, intervention did not occur in time. In September 2025, Zine Nucky Sylvester, a 23-year-old mother of 3 from Ohio, published a final message on Facebook. The post was brief but carried key elements that outlined her state of mind at the time. Its tone was exhausted, resigned, and final. It did not carry explanatory narratives or lengthy reasoning. Instead, it was short, raw, and unembellished, offering only fragments of instruction and statements of fatigue. In the post, Sylvester gave instructions for her children. She referenced their favorite colors and mentioned clothing preferences. These details suggested preparation and intentionality. It was not phrased as casual commentary, but instead directed toward ensuring her children's needs would be met after her absence. She also included words that directly hinted at her departure. One of the clearest phrases was, "If this touched Facebook, I'm gone." This left little ambiguity about her intention. The choice to make this statement public meant it would be seen by followers, friends, and family, signaling a farewell. Beyond these instructions and declarations, she described her own condition as tired and expressed a sense of displacement, stating that she did not know where she was. These phrases pointed to deep exhaustion and disorientation. They served as a closing message rather than a request for dialogue. The structure of the post reinforced its finality. It lacked emojis, extended explanations, or the conversational tone typical of social media. It was direct and stripped down, appearing almost as a note meant for others to discover only after the fact. The language gave no room for interpretation beyond resignation. The timing of Sylvester's final post was crucial. It was uploaded only hours before her death. This short window between publication and the act itself defined the possibility for intervention. Friends and followers began reacting quickly. With nearly 8,000 Facebook followers, her messages had wide visibility. Responses appeared in the form of comments, messages, and attempts to reach her. Some attempted to contact her directly, while others expressed confusion or alarm under the post itself. Despite this activity, the speed of events left little opportunity for effective intervention. While social media reactions were immediate, there is no public evidence that anyone reached her in time to stop what followed. The evidence available shows a sequence: posts uploaded, followers reacting, and then confirmation of her death later that day. The responses became memorials rather than preventative actions. The short timeline created a gap between recognition and possible rescue. Interpretations of the post vary both before and after her death. Some individuals who saw it in real time viewed it as a cry for help. They attempted to respond, offering words of encouragement or asking if she was okay. Others were uncertain, unsure whether it was an expression of stress or a definitive declaration. After the confirmation of her death, the meaning of the post became clearer to all. Many recognized it as a suicide note published in a digital space. The statements about being gone, her exhaustion, and her instructions for her children were later interpreted as deliberate signals of her intention. This raised questions within the community. Could earlier recognition of the message as a final note have changed the outcome? Could faster intervention by friends, family, or emergency services have prevented her death? These questions remained unanswered, as the short timeline left no space to test alternative outcomes. Sylvester's death occurred on a Tuesday in September 2025. The specific date was reported in relation to her funeral services, which were scheduled for September 29, 2025. The cause of death was confirmed publicly as suicide. No additional details were provided in media reporting regarding the method. The lack of disclosure limited outside understanding of the physical circumstances. This absence also left ambiguity about the environment and conditions leading directly to her passing. The confirmation came from family members and was supported by a GoFundMe campaign created to assist with funeral and memorial expenses. This verification established the manner of death without further elaboration. Public reports did not disclose the exact location where Sylvester died. Whether it occurred in her home, another residence, or a different setting was not specified. This left a gap in the narrative about the immediate environment. It is not known publicly who discovered her body first. Possibilities include family members, friends, or emergency responders. The timeline between her final Facebook post, discovery, and official declaration of death has not been published. The emergency response timeline also remains undocumented. It is not clear whether medical assistance was attempted, whether life-saving measures were performed, or she was found after the opportunity for intervention had already passed. These details remain withheld in available sources, creating ambiguity about the immediate aftermath of her act. While no detailed reports have been released publicly, it is likely that a coroner's report exists confirming the cause of death as suicide. This would formally establish the manner and will be filed as part of state death records. No police reports or EMS documentation have been made accessible through public channels. Without these, questions about timeline, discovery, and medical response remain unanswered. The lack of accessible records contributes to ambiguity. What is known comes primarily from family confirmation, social media evidence, and fundraising pages. Without official documents in public view, speculation fills gaps left by missing data. In the days following the confirmation of Zine Nucky Sylvester's death, her immediate family began releasing tributes through social media and community channels. Her sister was among the first to post a message online, publicly acknowledging the loss and describing her sibling as someone who left behind a permanent impression on those around her. Other relatives echoed this sentiment, characterizing Sylvester as a bright light with a beautiful voice and powerful soul. These descriptions formed the narrative her family wished to highlight, that her presence had been memorable and that her death left a void in the lives of those connected to her. The family also faced the practical reality of arranging funeral services and covering related expenses. To manage this, they established a GoFundMe campaign. The stated purpose was to raise money for funeral and memorial services, as well as to provide support for her 3 surviving children. The campaign text reflected both the financial strain of unexpected death and the desire to memorialize her appropriately. Within days, contributions began accumulating, showing tangible evidence of the community's willingness to provide assistance when financial burdens exceeded the family's immediate capacity. The GoFundMe page did not simply serve as a financial tool, but also as a platform for expressions of sympathy. Donors frequently included messages of condolence, reinforcing the family's public portrayal of her as a person remembered for vibrancy and strength. These written accounts became a collective memorial space alongside her sisters' and relatives' tributes, ensuring that the family's chosen narrative would dominate the initial public record of her memory. The wider community responded with visible gestures that extended beyond online tributes. Friends and local supporters organized a candlelight vigil in her memory. Vigils of this kind are typically held to provide a collective gathering space for mourning, but they also operate as public affirmations of solidarity. The candlelight vigil in this case allowed people who had known her, whether closely or at a distance, to acknowledge her death in a structured environment. Attendance at the vigil, along with photographs and recordings that circulated afterward, showed a cross-section of individuals connected to her through family, friendship, or community awareness. Such gatherings serve multiple functions: recognition of the deceased, reinforcement of community bonds, and creation of a visible reminder that a tragedy has taken place. On social media, the reaction was immediate and extensive. Her last Facebook post, written shortly before her death, became a focal point for grief and speculation. Users reshared screenshots of the post, often accompanied by their reflections. Some described it as a warning sign that had been missed, while others used it to initiate broader discussions about the seriousness of mental health struggles. The volume of posts highlighted collective shock and underscored how sudden the event appeared to those who had only engaged with her through online platforms. This reflection, both at the vigil and across social media, centered largely on the meaning of her final words. While the family emphasized her positive qualities, the community focused on interpreting the significance of her last message and whether intervention might have been possible. Beyond emotional and symbolic responses, the financial consequences were immediate. Funerals, memorial services, and the long-term care of 3 children represent significant costs, particularly for a family without extensive resources. The GoFundMe page became the central means of addressing these expenses. Reports indicate that more than $8,500 was raised through the campaign. This figure, while notable, underscored the limited financial capacity of her family to independently cover the obligations. The amount collected demonstrated community support, but also reflected the reality that such contributions, though helpful in the short term, could not fully address the broader financial challenges of raising her children. The campaign highlighted the family's reliance on external contributions for both immediate and future needs. Funeral costs are generally high, and the GoFundMe description emphasized that without outside support, these costs would place an unsustainable burden on those left behind. The situation illustrated how sudden death can destabilize families already balancing financial pressures, particularly when young children are involved. The role of the community, therefore, extended beyond symbolic gestures. Through financial contributions, individuals who may not have known her personally directly impacted the family's ability to manage the consequences of her death. This outcome underscored the dependence of many grieving families on community-driven fundraising platforms in the absence of sufficient savings, insurance, or institutional assistance. The media played a key role in shaping public understanding of Sylvester's death. Coverage consistently emphasized 2 focal points: her final Facebook post and her identity as a 23-year-old mother of 3. These elements made the story both accessible and easily shareable, producing headlines that were concise but often sensationalized. Most outlets framed the event through the lens of a social media post, reproducing its language and suggesting its role as a suicide note. In doing so, coverage prioritized the shock value of the post over more complex, less immediately dramatic aspects of her life. Her motherhood was also repeatedly emphasized, both to highlight her young age and to frame her children as victims of circumstance. However, the reporting demonstrated clear gaps. Very little attention was given to the deeper issues surrounding mental health, postpartum depression, or financial strain. These subjects were mentioned in passing or not at all, despite their potential relevance. Instead, the coverage concentrated on what could be distilled into quick narratives: the young mother, the final post, the tragic outcome. The tension between sensationalism and sensitivity was evident. while some articles adopted a respectful tone and acknowledged a broader mental health crisis. Others focus heavily on reproducing her last words to maximize audience engagement. This imbalance reinforced how media often flattens complex realities into simplified, headline-driven stories. Several factors in Sylvester's life aligned with known risk factors for mental health crises. First, the pressures of motherhood were evident. She was caring for 3 children, including an infant just 3 months old. The demands of parenting a newborn are intense under any circumstances, and when combined with the needs of 2 other young children, the potential for exhaustion and overwhelm is considerable. Postpartum mental health challenges were also likely relevant. Research consistently identifies postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety as significant risks for mothers in the months following childbirth. Symptoms can include feelings of hopelessness, fatigue, difficulty bonding with the infant, and, in severe cases, suicidal ideation. Without intervention, such conditions may escalate. The stigma surrounding mental health care in many communities further complicates matters. Cultural factors often discourage individuals from admitting to psychological distress or seeking professional help. For young mothers in particular, there can be pressure to appear capable and strong, discouraging open acknowledgement of struggle. The silence around mental health in her environment may have reduced her willingness or ability to seek support. Social media both revealed and concealed aspects of Sylvester's situation. Her Facebook presence presented a curated version of her life. Images of her children, updates that emphasize family and positivity. With nearly 8,000 followers, there was an implicit expectation to maintain an image of stability and joy. This pressure to perform happiness online can deepen internal conflicts. Public presentation of strength can obscure private despair, creating a widening gap between outward image and inner reality. The contrast makes it less likely for outsiders to recognize distress, as the narrative presented to them remains positive. Her last post disrupted this dynamic. It functioned as both a confession and a cry for recognition. Unlike previous updates, it abandoned positive framing and directly stated exhaustion and departure. The sharp shift from curated positivity to raw finality revealed how social media can mask ongoing struggles until the very end, when the message becomes unambiguous. The absence of intervention highlights gaps in support structures. There is no public evidence of mental health professionals being involved in her life, nor consistent therapeutic or medical care for potential postpartum conditions. Without such intervention, untreated symptoms can escalate to crisis. Family and friends may have underestimated her pain. To outsiders, her life may have appeared manageable. She was young, active on social media, and surrounded by children she often described affectionately. The gap between external perception and internal experience left her without the support she required. Institutional failures may also be considered. Access to health care, childcare, and financial resources is often limited for young mothers. These systemic deficiencies compound personal struggles, leaving individuals vulnerable when crises occur. Several open questions remain in this case. Were there missed opportunities to intervene, particularly in the hours after a final post? To what extent did financial hardship contribute to her sense of despair? Could broader healthcare or community systems have provided protective measures that prevented escalation? These questions remain unanswered in public accounts, but highlight the structural gaps that allow such tragedies to occur. The primary lesson from this case is the importance of taking final messages seriously. Social media posts that explicitly mention exhaustion, despair, or departure should not be dismissed or delayed in response. The case also underscores the hidden struggles of young mothers. Outward appearances and public posts often fail to reveal the true extent of internal battles. This highlights the need for greater awareness of postpartum conditions and mental health in general. Postpartum and mental health resources should be treated as essential, not optional. Regular screening, accessible counseling, and community support networks can serve as life-saving measures. This case demonstrates how society often overlooks subtle cries for help. Even when individuals express distress, it may be dismissed until it is too late. Greater vigilance and training in recognizing warning signs are necessary across communities. Social media's role is complex. It amplifies both despair and support, but its algorithms and engagement-driven design often reward sensationalism over substance. Platforms may inadvertently encourage people to present curated positivity while burying signs of real distress. Community vigilance can play a role in prevention. Families, friends, and even distant acquaintances need to respond actively when signs of crisis appear online. Immediate outreach can sometimes prevent irreversible outcomes. Zine Nucky Sylvester's legacy cannot be confined to her death alone. She is remembered as a mother of three, as someone described by her family as a bright light with a lasting presence. Her death, however, now serves as a reminder of the unseen struggles that exist behind public images. Her story raises awareness of the urgent need to address mental health, particularly among young mothers navigating postpartum conditions and financial instability. It highlights how community support, though visible after death, must also be mobilized before crises occur. Ultimately, her case operates as a cautionary tale, one that urges immediate recognition of distress signals, prioritization of mental health resources, and a dismantling of stigma. Without such changes, similar tragedies will continue to unfold, leaving communities to react only after it is too late. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.